much easier if the world was flat, or if you're in a flat situation. As soon as things are not flat, and you've got the world is like, it has undulations and curves, and then the car can be at any kind of angle, and then if you accelerate or brake, it's actually going to tip a little bit.
Yeah,
and you've got sort of pitch and yaw compensation. That's where it gets really tricky.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing just amazing work. It literally just blows my mind every time, like, there's an update. Like, you think it's like, wow, I can't believe it's this good. And then it just gets better.
Like, the big one was the faster lane changes. Like, as you push the turn signal, it's like immediately. It's really awesome.
That's so satisfying.
Yeah,
and
love that.
I was kind of just like before, I was like, okay, it's not that good, but it feels good because, like, I can't believe a computer's doing this. Then we got the faster ones, and I was like, oh my God, it was so bad before. Like, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be able to just do crazy maneuvers like a high-speed chase technically, because it's you don't always want to bias the thing to be conservative in the actions that it takes. Yeah. But there's quite a significant foundational rewrite in the Tesla autopilot system that's almost complete as
really?
well. Yeah.
And what part of the system? Like perception, like planning, or just like?
It's instead of having planning, perception, image recognition all be separate, they're being combined. Yeah.
I don't even understand what that means.
Effectively, like the sort of neural net is absorbing more and more of the problem.
Right.
Beyond simply if you see an image, is this a car or not, or what, you know? It's kind of what do you do from that? 3D labeling is the next big thing, where the car can go through a scene with 8 cameras and kind of paint a path, and then you can label the path in 3D. This is probably 2 or 3 order of magnitude improvement in labeling efficiency and labeling accuracy. You know, 2 or 3 orders improvement in labeling efficiency and significant improvement in labeling accuracy, as opposed to having to label individual frames from 8 cameras at 36 frames a second. You just drive through the scene, rebuild that scene as a 3D thing with. It's like there might be 1,000 frames that were used to create that scene, and then you can label them all at once.
Is that related to the dojo thing you mentioned at the autonomy day?
No, dojo is for learning, for training the neural net. That's like when you're trying to build the neural net that you ship into the car, dojo speeds that up by hardware accelerating it.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you guys, is that up and running yet, or?
No, it might be. We might have the first one at the end of this year. But next year, I think it's very likely next year, maybe this year. But it's essentially meant to absorb massive amounts of video input, and then train against vast amounts of data, so that it can be used in the inference engine in the car. So it's just like a human, really. It's like how long does it take you to learn a subject versus do a subject? You know, it's like hard to learn, say, calculus. But once you learned it, then you can, you know, integrate something fast or something. You know, it's like it's really the same basic thing.
Yeah, I mean, that'll just really tighten the feedback loop. Like, at some point, it just gets impossible to catch you guys. I mean, like, the rest of the people haven't even really, like, started, the rest of the auto industry. And, like, the feedback loop is just getting so tight with autopilot now. It's just, like, makes it a lot easier.
I think it will. They will catch up eventually. Or at least they will catch up to where Tesla is now. I don't know. I mean, things like for example, we're talking about maps and directions, and how today, like, computer-based navigation is considered trivial. But you know, back in '95, it was not trivial.
Right. Yeah.
It was considered very hard, and the compute power you had was tiny. So the code had to be super tight. Couldn't have fluffy code. If you trying to execute something on like a 386, like very, very puny amount of memory and compute. So now but now maps and directions are easy. I think at some point in the future, it might be a decade or something, then autonomy will seem easy.
Yeah. I mean, it'll obviously be commoditized in the long term.
Yes. It will seem easy in 10 years. But there will be a long stretch there where there'll be vast differences between cars. Well, and the auto industry is used to slow rates of improvement. So, there's still not really a car yet that matches the original Model S. Maybe you could argue like take
2012.
maybe.
Yeah.
If you look at like the EPA ratings, it literally is just all below.
Yeah. So that was 2012, and it's 2020. So it's still like pretty hard to get a car. Let's say there's not a car available at the price of the Model S that has the capabilities of the Model S of 2012.
It's kind of exactly what you were talking about with the Elise, where you're like, oh, we'll just put a battery in the Elise, and that kind of showed you like, okay, we really need a ground-up electric design.
Yeah.
And the rest of the industry hasn't done that.
The sort of founding principles of Tesla were basically completely wrong. So the premise going in is like, it's not going to be that hard. We'll just take the Lotus Elise, it's a nice lightweight car, and we'll take AC Propulsion's drive unit technology, and we'll put them together, and we'll have an electric car, and it'll be great. It sounds pretty easy.
Yeah.
Except the AC Propulsion technology could not be industrialized. Like, it was like basically handcrafted electronics with an analog motor controller.
Yeah.
And so depending if there was hot or cold, your car would respond differently or not at all. And the motors were hand wound. It was just like it was like impossible. You cannot scale this technology. You could have like finicky, individually made, super expensive prototypes, but we ended up using none of the AC propulsion technology. So. It's something that looks cool and works well at an individual prototype level does not necessarily scale. And then like I said, it was like maybe 7% of the parts of the original Roadster were in common with the Lotus Elise. It would have been way easier if we started from a blank slate. It would have been a better car. But I think like the real test of any given startup is how well does it respond to adversity and adapt and just figure it out. So like most things are just, when they start out, they don't make a lot of sense. But then as long as you adapt quickly, then you can make the company work. If you say like sort of Confinity, doing Palm Pilot tokens with an infrared port made no sense, but they adapted quickly to online payments. That was key. At X.com was originally going to bite off way more than it could chew by trying to do all the banking services, and then also focused on payments. It's like, if we do all these banking things, we're going to need a banking license. The banking license is going to slow us down. We're just focused on payments, so we can just get a payment, license from the state, and it's just like $50 or something, and you can be a money transmitter. Literally, and so you just got to adapt quickly.
You kind of need to be naive, though. If you had known as much about manufacturing, you might not have done it.
Yeah. It would have been difficult to. I guess if you know the outcome's going to be good in the end, sure. It sort of depends on how much foreknowledge do you have about it. Manufacturing is insanely difficult. It's underappreciated in its difficulty.
Yeah, no, that's totally true.
Yeah. Even making the Roadster, which we only like peak made about 600 Roadsters in a year, but call it like 10 a week or something like that. 10 or 12 a week. So if two got made in a day, that was a big day. And Tesla's making over 1,000 cars a day now.
What I find amazing is from start to finish, a car is made in 48 hours.
Yeah, depending on what counts, start to finish.
Yeah, it depends. But you can see the rolled aluminum in one section of the factory, and you can see the cars coming out the other end, and it really is astounding. And
Yeah.
cars have been built for a long time, but this is just astounding. It's still when you don't appreciate when you're driving a car how much goes into the level of detail, the 10,000 parts
Yeah.
that come together, the shaping of everything.
10,000 unique parts.
Unique
arguably.
parts.
Wow.
I mean, the pack alone is several thousand cells.
And it all comes together with people that are skilled, but skills are changing as things become a little bit. There's more autonomy, but it's not autonomy is not perfect. So you do need to have a lot of people there, and these cars have to be perfect. I mean, it's just an incredible thing.
Given how much complexity there is in a car, it's remarkable that they cost as little as they do. There's so much that's in a car.
So what sort of processes did you remove, like, first principles type thing approach from the Elise to like the Model S? Like, was it a massive jump there?
Yeah, I mean, it's gigantic.
Yeah.
Tesla had never made a car, made a full car before. Lotus made the non-powertrain portion of the Roadster, and then Tesla built the battery pack, motor, power electronics, charger, and then put it all together at the end. And that final assembly was actually at an old Ford dealership in Menlo Park. That was. You can see some of the stuff in Revenge of the Electric Car.
Yeah, I've seen
Great movie.
Yeah, it's great.
It just gives you crazy perspective to look back on it.
Crazy.
We need a third one.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of having a car assembly tiny plant in Menlo Park of all places, and that was just because we managed to sublease the Ford dealership closed down, and we managed to get it like this deal from Stanford, because the Stanford was going to redevelop it, and we figured they'd probably take way longer than they expected to redevelop it. So we said, well, you're not bringing it to anyone. Like, can we pay you like 50 cents a square foot, and you can kick us out whenever you want? And it was this actually huge dealership, and it had enough room to do final assembly of the cars. So we just did final assembly of the cars there.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and one of the most absurd places to build cars on Earth is Menlo Park.
So no test track or anything, just the road outside or something.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we'd actually, the early roasters were very unreliable, so we'd generally put about 50 miles of just normal driving.
Oh,
so just drive around the Bay Area with somebody following you.
You must have got some crazy looks from people, right? It's like, what is that?
Yeah. But we'd put 50 miles in each one of those cars because they just have a lot of things that would break down in the first 50 miles. And then, battery production was in San Carlos. Yeah. So, man, there's just a lot of detail on that and all that. But going from the Roadster to Model S was a massive leap, because the Model S is quite a sophisticated sedan where Tesla built the whole thing as opposed to just building the powertrain. And, so... competing against like a Mercedes, BMW, Audi type thing. So that was a massive leap of difficulty. We did get the NUMMI plant, but really that just meant we got $8.
Yeah.
Because they stripped the plant of all the good equipment. The only equipment that Toyota and GM left behind was the stuff that they could not use anywhere else.
Wow.
So they only left the most junky, broken pieces of equipment behind. We managed to use some of it, but yeah, in the paint shop. I mean, some of the things were literally not even worth the scrap value. so it was like not worth it to call the scrap metal dealer.
What'd you do with it then?
We made a lot of those things work.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, plastic injection molding machines, and we just made them work.
Wow.
And the paint robots, we mostly made those work. The assembly, the body production line had to be made new because there was just nothing. So the body production line for Model S was created from scratch. Yeah, and it worked out, but it was very difficult. It was also in the beginning, the top suppliers would not work with us, or we would get like their D team, because like who wants, if they got all these customers, like they got the big car companies, they got like Toyota, or they got Audi, BMW, Ford as customers, and a startup who. Now you're in the supplier's position. Which team are you going to assign to this startup that everyone says is going bankrupt? You're going to assign the interns and rejects. Okay, it's not going to be your top team.
We have the same thing with our
Your top team's going to go to like Toyota. Your big customers, the top team. So we would get the worst team usually at the supplier company if the supplier would even work with us.
You think that influenced you to vertically integrate more?
No, it's vertically integrate or die.
Makes sense.
Yeah. We tried outsourcing. The battery production originally was going to be made at this place that made, I think, barbecue grills in Thailand.
I read the story.
Yeah, and I was like, man, they have no idea how to make a battery. And I was like, this is crazy. We're moving it to back to our headquarters in St. Carlos. And we're just going to make it here. Because once there's a massive amount of work going from a prototype to production, and so you need a fast feedback loop with engineering, and if that feedback loop is all the way out in Thailand, it's just no way. It's not like if you have an existing production line that you already know how to make it in volume, that you can move, but you cannot create a production line that never existed that's super far away from where the engineers are. It's a recipe for disaster. And also the cells were coming from Japan. So they go from Japan, they go to Thailand, they go through customs, they'd be waiting, and then they'd be going to a battery pack. Then that battery pack would be sent to England. Then Lotus, these are all things that got changed. But the supply chain, like let's say there'd been a problem with the cells, you'd only if the supply chain was so long that you'd only find out that it didn't work 5 months later.
Yikes.
Yeah, and then you have 5 months of scrap inventory. So this is a recipe for a disaster. So that got moved to San Carlos. Cells shipped directly to San Carlos. Put it in a module. Figure out why the module's not working. Fix it. Put it into a pack. Like the original reason why the Roadster battery pack had, I think it was like 16 sort of blades, was modules. If one of them didn't work, you could pull it out and put another one in. Because that happened. So you don't really need modules in my view. You should just go from cells to pack at this point. But it was a very difficult thing going from Roadster to Model S.
The fact that like the Model 3 still has modules is kind of vestigial.
It's vestigial, yeah. Because the modules in the Model 3 are not actually interchangeable, so there's no point in having modules really. We should just have a pack.
Was that done to just save cost then, or some other reason?
It started off because it's not a sensible reason. The reason that there were cells, modules, and pack goes back to the early Roadster days, where we'd make a module. That module would have problems, and so then you could swap out a module. It's like a server rack. The idea was like, if you have a bunch of servers in a server room and one of the servers flakes out, you can pull it out and put another one in. So without having to replace, so you could replace a small fraction of the pack instead of the whole pack. Then that concept just carried forward into Model S, X, and 3, but without the original logic no longer exists because the modules are not interchangeable. Yeah. You can't just swap out a module. But these things just have a lot of inertia. So we really want to move to no such thing as a module. There's just cells and pack. Yeah.
Yeah, because initially they had the battery swap facility right at Harris Range.
Yes.
And then the Model 3, I don't think it had that capability that you could actually swap the whole pack out quickly, right? Or I don't know if that was...
It does not.
Yeah, right.
S and X still have the ability to do a fast pack swap.
Right.
But I mean, things essentially evolved in the same direction that phones evolved. You know, for a long time, phones had swappable battery packs, and now basically almost nobody makes a phone with a swappable battery pack.
Definitely.
As soon as the range gets past a certain point, then
I agree.
yeah, it doesn't make sense. But this was far from clear at the time of designing the Model S. So we went to a lot of trouble to make the S and X pack capable of a fast swap with quick disconnects and bolts coming in only from the bottom and that kind of thing. And then we did that demo where we just swapped out 2 packs faster than you could fill a gas tank.
That's amazing.
It's kind of ridiculous to me, like taking the battery out of your car just in, you know, Harris Ranch, and they put a new battery in and you come back. It was kind of like, it's good that supercharging got a lot better.
Yeah, it was just way better to increase the range of the pack and have faster charging. But this debate, which seems obvious in retrospect, was not obvious at the time.
Definitely.
You know, back then, I think at least I don't know, a lot of phones had swappable packs. Because remember, this would have been designed in, you know, we had the first prototype out in 2010 for the Model S. So back in 2010, let's say the thought process going into this in 2009 would have been, you know, at a time when, I don't know, maybe most phones had swappable packs or something like that, you know. The iPhone was like 2007 or something, iPhone 1. Yeah, so then it didn't make sense. But you know, companies have a lot of momentum, so the S and X pack is still a swappable pack.
Yeah.
It's like it was like too much trouble to change the design. And Model 3 still has modules, even though it shouldn't have modules. And to some degree, like what you'll see in any given product is that the errors in the structure of an organization will manifest themselves in the product. So, you know, that's where, well, we have a module team, so we have modules. Like, wait a second, just combine the module team with the pack team, and then there won't be modules. So generally, the errors in the organization manifest themselves in the product. You can see where the organizational boundaries are, and then you will often get like a box in a box. It's like, wait, why does this thing have 2 boxes? Well, because this team wanted to have an enclosure, and this team wanted to have an enclosure. And so they have an enclosure on an enclosure. And this is still the case with it's like, what a silly thing, but that's actually the case with the Model 3. Model 3 battery pack has a top enclosure, and the car also has an underbody.
Yep.
What's the point of that? That doesn't make any sense. Because the pack team wanted to have an enclosed battery pack, and the body team wanted to have an enclosed body. Yeah, it makes sense. But you don't need 2.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
So this is all this, and putting the top cover on the battery pack is a big pain in the neck. So it adds mass and cost and stuff. So that should definitely go away in the future. Lots of brackets on brackets, that kind of thing.
So you survived the production hell of the Model 3, which was pretty intense. I mean,
that was like stupendously difficult. And I mean, I think it's sort of Tesla. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I think it might be accurate. Is the first car company to reach volume production, I think in 80 or 90 years or something like that in the US.
That's wow.
Yeah,
And it's a harder time to do it for sure.
Yeah. The complexity of like what people the regulatory requirements and the minimum expectations for a car at this point are dramatically more than they were 80 or 90 years ago.
And the place you chose to do it too.
Yeah. So it was a super difficult one. I mean, there's lots of car company startups, but doing the prototype is the easy part. Building the production system is 100 times harder.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's where you see the things fail. Like, there've been, over the course of the last century, probably thousands of car company startups, most of which people have never heard about. You know, occasionally you'll hear about something like a DeLorean or a Tucker. Most of them, there's not even a footnote, and it's because of the difficulty of production. And then, and here's a real important point that is not well appreciated. This is a point that should be advanced by short sellers, but I've not seen it. I've not seen it articulated, but it should be. The incumbent car companies make most of their money from selling spare parts to their existing fleet at high margins, and they'll sell the new cars either at de facto zero margin or even at a loss. It's kind of like printers and cartridges or razors and blades. You sell the razor at a loss, sell the blades at a profit, sell the printer at a loss, sell a cartridge at a profit, or video game consoles. The actual cost of, say, an Xbox is $600, but you can buy it for $300 or $400 because they make it up in the games that are bought. Yeah. So so if you're a new company, you do not have a fleet. So you have no fleet with which to subsidize the sale of your new cars. This is the primary reason there has not been a successful car company startup in the United States. This is the primary reason. Because the incumbent car companies have 80% of their fleet outside of warranty or something like that. Maybe it's 70%, but approximately. Like if a car lasts for, say, 20 years or something like that, and the warranty is for 4 years, then it's 80% out of warranty. So even if they stopped selling new cars, they would still, the profit would increase. So,
according to Edmunds, dealerships make 20% of their revenue, but 50% of their profits on service.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the car companies themselves will often make more than 100% of their profit on selling spare parts.
Wow.
Yeah. So if at the point at which they're making, say, 110% of the profit from selling spare parts, it means that they're actually selling the new cars at a loss. So this is the very difficult thing to overcome. In order to overcome it, a car has to be significantly more compelling than other vehicles, such that people are willing to pay a premium, and that you can actually be positive cash flow, aspirationally profitable, selling new cars, not simply selling spare parts to the fleet. For Tesla's fleet is probably 10% of Tesla's fleet, or something less than 20% is out of warranty, whereas 80% of the other car makers is out of warranty. So this makes it very difficult. Also, electric cars need much less servicing, so that's another difficult thing. So this is the main. This should be the main argument advanced, I think, for why a new car company cannot be successful. The main one. And so, yeah. Then, like I said, in order for that car company to have any chance, it must be compelling enough that people will pay a premium. Otherwise, there's no chance. And I think there's actually, in order for a car company to be successful, it has to succeed on two fundamental technology discontinuities. One being electrification, and the other one being autonomy. I think not even pure electrification by itself is not enough. Mm-hmm. So you can but like since the moving production line, there have been two major technology step changes, being electrification and autonomy, and the combination of those two is that's the only opening for a new car company to make it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, without autonomy, you'd probably have to wait for EVs to reach price parity. With autonomy, you can drive many more miles and bridge that gap easier.
And it's like, well, Tesla's moat in some ways, or not moat, I guess, but like Tesla's advantage in many ways is bigger because like these are two such different technologies that are happening at once that you've been working on while nobody else has. So it's like that much harder to replicate now that it's been accomplished almost.
It's very hard for any new car company to enter the market, they have to make a very compelling product. Meaning they have to have some significant technology advancements in the electric drivetrain and the battery pack, and just generally with the car itself. And then the autonomy has to be very compelling. Autonomy in and of itself is enormous. So both of those things a company must be successful in doing, or they will end up in the cemetery. So that's the real challenge of it. Yeah.
Well, even with like the software updates, I mean, that's something that no other manufacturer can really even get right. They can't do it over the air. You have to take your car into, because it doesn't work, right? So that's a core component of providing updates. Instead of getting your revenue now from the dealership and spare parts and stuff, you can actually send software as a service. We actually did a whole podcast on this.
Well, our goal is to minimize service costs.
Yeah.
Whereas the other car companies, I wouldn't say the goal is to maximize service costs, but it's certainly not to minimize it.
Well, car companies also have two different businesses. There's the dealerships, where their business is actually just service, and I don't think it's anyone's surprise that people don't like going to their dealer. I mean, it's like it's because their incentives are actually not aligned with the customer's incentives. Their goal is to bring you back as often as possible.
Yeah, the dealerships' incentives are also misaligned with the car companies during the warranty period, because the car company has to pay for the warranty, the service during warranty. So it's that they have a conflict of economic conflict of interests. The car companies cover the warranty costs, but the dealership makes profit on the servicing. So they want to maximize servicing even during the warranty period.
Yeah, it's almost like the economic factors you just mentioned have created like a complacency where there is no innovation because, nobody can just start a car company.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's like Schumpeter's creative destruction. There's like innovation tends to come from new entrants to an industry. So if an industry has formed an oligopoly or something like that, then the forcing function is weak for innovation, because innovation tends to come from new entrants. Yeah, so this is the problem with rockets. There's not a lot of new entrants, so innovation forcing function is weak.
But it's encouraging to see a rocket booster land.
Yeah.
And everyone is all like, wow, we can innovate maybe.
Yeah, it's actually been surprising how little innovation there's been and despite SpaceX showing reusable rockets, landing and reflying these rockets many times, and we're like, come on, just copy it or something.
Same with Tesla. I mean, tech works. Just do the same thing.
Didn't Chinese space companies started putting grid fins on their rockets?
I think there's some Chinese rockets that have launched with grid fins. Well, you can really use any kind of fin. Grid fins just are more predictable across a wide range of speeds. So from hypersonic through, supersonic, transonic, subsonic, it's quite easy to predict the behavior of a grid fin, and the center of pressure of a grid fin doesn't change that much. Whereas if you have a fin like a wing-looking thing, that you'll see quite a big change in where the center of pressure is across a wide Mach regime. Yeah, either one would work. The shuttle didn't have grid fins.
What do you think about Rocket Lab's approach of trying to use a helicopter to recover the first stage?
I think that's going to be harder than it seems.
Yeah, I think so.
But their booster is quite small. So the issue with helicopters is you run into a max load problem. Like the lifting capability of helicopters is not that great, and that lifting capability drops with altitude. And then the range of a helicopter is also not that great. So then you end up having to have the helicopter on a ship, and then if in heavy weather conditions you can't take off. So that you have to be your weather constraints at the launch point and the catch point are end up limiting your launch availability. And then you got to. It's dangerous. You've got somebody in a helicopter with a pilot trying to catch this thing coming out of the sky.
Yeah.
It's
Doesn't sound too sane.
there's certainly the potential for something to go wrong. Whereas if you have a drone ship, there's if it smashes into the drone ship, it's not a big deal. If it smashes into a helicopter, that's a big deal.
Sure.
Yeah. So overall, I've been that said, I've been pretty impressed with Rocket Lab, and they're making a go of it. And they're going to do reusability, which is important. It's fundamental.
Do you guys still see yourself doing that city to city travel in 30 minutes one day?
That would be awesome.
I want to do more Starship.
Yeah, I think that can for sure can be done. Yeah, for sure can be done. It is loud. It's really a noise is the biggest concern there. Both taking off and landing. When it comes in for landing, that sonic boom is loud. It's like, there's actually two sonic booms. So it sounds like somebody just discharged a double-barrel shotgun in your backyard. So it's not like it's breaking windows or anything, but it's like it's be pretty annoying if it's happening on a regular basis. That's basically what it amounts to. So then you have to do it offshore. So I think we'll do, but can it be done? Definitely. And it's the fastest way to get anywhere based on known physics. So, and I think the economics can be made to work as well, so that it would be competitive with international air travel.
It'd be exciting.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
cheap?
yeah.
Wow. I can't wait for that. I travel a lot, like to Asia, like minimum like 12 hours to 14 hours.
Sure.
Yeah.
Will you try to keep most of the launches around the equator, or would it matter? Like,
It doesn't matter a ton. It matters if you're going east to if you launch east, you have the advantage of the Earth's rotation. The closer you are to the equator, the more you can take advantage of Earth rotation. If you fly west, you're actually counteracting Earth's rotation, so the delta velocity that you need is higher. But you can go in either direction. I think one of our upcoming launches is actually a retrograde flight. So it's going to go against the Earth's rotation.
that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah.
But if Starship is going to launch so many times a day, how are you going to produce all these Raptors? Because we've been touring the SpaceX factory in Hawthorne, and you're making them by hand, right? Are you going to automate any of this?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's being made by hand. Being assembled by hand, maybe, but
Yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry.
we have a lot of metal printers. We have a whole
That's incredible.
Those 3D printers are crazy.
3D metal printing. Wow.
Yeah,
Love it.
I mean, I think SpaceX is pushing the envelope of metal printing more than anyone else. At least that's what the splatters tell us. But we also have a foundry.
That
So
is cool.
we do casting of exotic parts for a Raptor. We have a lot of CNC machines. It's a very complicated engine to build. A Merlin looks like a toy relative to Raptor. It's very simple. But we're going to make a lot of Raptors and Starships.
So are they all going to be made in the States then?
Yes,
Okay, they'd have to be, but
they have to be.
yeah.
Yeah, we can get simple ingredients from outside the U.S., but other than that, we're not allowed to
Strange.
transmit any sort of
NASA IP.
Yeah, NASA. Yeah.
no. It's like anything that like is a sophisticated element of a rocket engine, we're not allowed to transfer out the U.S. or rockety stuff is the weapons technology.
So just a Starship, when it's assembled, will fly there and come back.
So
Technically, there's a lot of rockets at the bottom of the ocean to push out. And they have.
This is true.
So if your city to city rocket travel works, does that mean Tesla doesn't need to build an electric airplane?
Man, building an electric airplane has a lot of difficulty associated with that.
Or what about the VTOL jet?
There's a lot of difficulty associated with that. I gotta make sure, well, it takes a massive amount of effort to do any one of these things. So you can't do them all. It's not possible. Say, oh, how you allocate the resources? What's the best thing to do? Making a VTOL jet can definitely be done. Doing electric aircraft for sure. I mean, all transport will go electric except for rockets. Yeah, everything.
I guess why it seems exciting is because if Tesla's leading in energy density and battery technology, then the logical next step is like, if somebody's going to build an electric airplane, it's the company with the best, lightest, most efficient batteries, right?
Yeah, it's hard to, it's an entirely different regulatory regime. There aren't any car companies that are also aircraft companies. So why don't they just make aircraft?
Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny. There was like some conspiracy theories on Twitter because on Instagram, Tesla's category, it said automotive, and then somehow aircrafts and boats got added.
Yeah.
Boats.
Like at the Cybertruck event, they
Yeah,
changed it or something.
Before Cybertruck,
They're
it
making
got
a
changed.
boat or an airplane.
This is like your Wikipedia.
I think it's incredibly hard to bring an aircraft to production and meet all of the regulatory requirements worldwide. It's a very difficult thing. So it's not like it's something that could just be done. We would have to not do a bunch of other things. It's not like there's like a ton of unallocated resources at Tesla and like, oh, what should we do now? It's like a constant resource starvation. So then it's like, why don't you do this other thing? Okay, well, we're starving for resources. Then what will you not do?
Well, it seems like that's what's so exciting is now that the business has kind of taken this next step, the resource like starve is kind of changing or hopefully slowly changing.
I mean, an airplane, like maybe another car or something. It's not.
Yeah, not necessarily in airplanes, but I'm just in general. It seems like the financial help means you can spend more on R&D. You can invest more. Like
that's not how it works. It's not like if you just had more money, you could spend it effectively in R&D. But if there was a factory producing excellent engineers, that would be true. Where is this factory? It doesn't exist. So it's incredibly difficult to find the right talent, integrate them into an organization, and have it work effectively. It's not a money thing. It's just hard to find. There's just a small number of people,
More engineers.
Especially, there's just a fundamental limitation on exceptional engineers. There's just not that many.
So given like these constraints and all the things you have to do, could you tell us like a little bit about your thinking on how you prioritize?
And the prioritizing has usually been out of desperation, not choice. It's not like, oh, let's sit back and how should we spend these resources? This damn thing isn't going to work. If we don't make it work, we're going to go bankrupt. So, and then so we better make it work. The Model 3 program, there were so many mistakes that were made with the Model 3 program that the entire company had to be devoted to fixing the Model 3 production system. So, we took everyone off solar, almost everyone off battery pack, power pack, and that kind of thing. Anyone who was working on, Roadster, Semi, everyone stop doing that, work on Model 3 or there won't be any Tesla.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing. You really bet the whole company to get to this next level, but, I have a Model 3. I couldn't afford a Model S, so, I'm very thankful that you guys decided to bet the whole company.
There was no choice. It's like either you got to get to volume. It's a chicken and egg situation. You can't make the car at an affordable price unless you have high volume. Unless you have high volume, you can't get an affordable price. So now what do you do?
Yeah.
How do you bootstrap this thing? You basically just got to take a giant flying leap at high volume and hope you get to the, you grab the cliff ledge with your fingertips.
Yeah, it seems like
It's like that Indiana Jones where you're like running down the thing, and here's what it actually feels like. It's like that, what Temple of Doom, whatever, where it's like there's a damn boulder chasing you down. Okay,
Arrows shooting.
and there's a big hole in the ground,
Can you make that game?
and you're gonna jump across the hole in the ground, and if you slow down, the boulder's gonna crush you. This is what it feels like. It's not like, I wonder what she'll do. It's like boulder, hole in the ground, and then jump across or you're gonna die. So that's basically, get the situation. Like at this point, maybe we could say like, okay, what shall we do at this point? The biggest problem we have to solve right now is just having production on each continent. Because it's insane to be making cars in California, shipping them to Europe and Asia. This is, as it is, making cars in the Bay Area is pretty absurd. And then you also got to ship those cars halfway around the world. So you got all this finished goods inventory on the water that's very high capital carrying cost. And you can finance part of it, but not all of it. Then... you got the transport costs, you got tariffs, you got, every time a car gets loaded or unloaded, there's some potential for damage. It's not zero, so it just creates a lot of cost, and then it's hard to manage. And the factory complexity in California is amplified because you've got several different regulatory regimes. So you're building. It seems like you're building Model 3, but you're actually building several versions of a Model 3, depending upon whether it's going to China, Japan, Australia, Europe. Then you got goddamn right-hand drive. Okay, it's like every night everything's gonna go. Oh yeah, because of some random bureaucratic decision 100 years ago. Right-hand drive, left-hand drive. This is a mega pain in the ass.
Put it in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And all these different languages, you can't have like warning labels in English if they don't speak English. It's like, I don't know what it means. So there's stickers all over the place for 17 different languages or whatever it is. And that's all in one factory. So the complexity amplifies the difficulty of manufacturing, and then you kind of get into the cycle where in the first month in the quarter, or let's say first 6 weeks in the quarter, you build cars for Europe and Asia, and you get them on the boats, and then for the next, say, 3 weeks, you build cars for the East Coast of the US or North America, and then the final 3 weeks, you build cars for the West Coast. So the deliveries early in the quarter look very, very low, and they spike exponentially at the end because basically all the cars arrive at the customers at the end of the quarter. And they were like, then we'll have these conversations. We've got to get out of this wave. And they're like, well, they'll punish us very badly if we get out of the wave because the financials will look horrible.
Yeah.
So then we end up, okay, we'll do the wave again. And so now we've got a factory in Shanghai that should that'll go a long way towards alleviating the complexity and the cost. We'll have far fewer goods that we need to finance that are on boats. Once we get the factory going in Berlin, or Brandenburg technically, it's close to Berlin. Then this massively reduces the complexity of production and reduces the fundamental cost of the vehicle. So this will really de-stress the company a lot.
So local production will break the wave.
Local production will break the wave. Just like we've had the number of times that headlights have come up as an issue is crazy. We've had to ship cars to Europe many times where the supplier of the headlights for the EU headlights couldn't match rate, or made them wrong or something, and then so we have to make cars with US headlights, ship them to Europe, then ship a bunch of EU headlights to Europe, change them in the port because they're not allowed to exit the port until they have the EU headlights.
Oh my god.
So that was the port problems we would see.
That's one of the many port problems.
Wow.
Wow.
So like first quarter last year was a tragedy of errors. It's not a comedy, but a tragedy. And Belgium went on strike, right? And you're like, what do you mean Belgium's on strike? I'm like, yeah, the whole country. A lot of cars were coming into Zeebrugge, and we're like, okay, now what do we do? Nothing. Just cars are stuck because okay. But then they're scheduled to go off strike on this other day, and like, okay, so then we can move things. Great. There's just so many things. And cars got stuck in the port of Shanghai because they had the wrong sticker.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
put the wrong sticker.
Did the sticker man get
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know. It's like, it's better off like just made it in China. And sell it
Absolutely,
to China.
for sure.
Like
Totally agree.
you don't have to spend like 2 weeks, 3 weeks on the ocean, go there and wrong sticker, and you have to wait and replace.
People don't appreciate Giga Shanghai yet completely. I
Not
think.
until recently.
Not totally, definitely
Not
not.
yet. Not yet. I don't think people have realized it.
Not fully.
It's
but,
extremely important.
yeah.
Yeah. And these like shipping times are like technically it's possible if everything goes right, you can get the car there in 2 weeks, but the ships don't leave every single day, and then you also have to queue. You can't just instantly load the cars. So the cars, you have to like send like 2,000 cars to a lot in like Port Oakland or Port San Francisco, accumulate the cars. Then they get moved to another place. Then they get loaded onto the ship one at a time.
Oh my god.
And then finally the ship leaves, and then like sometimes the ship has problems.
Yes.
And like there's storms or something.
Storm and custom.
Yeah, no, like it's
You
not
have
like
to go through everything.
it's so much drama. Then this ship.
Too many ways to go wrong. Like,
So yeah, and then like the ship's engine broke down, so it's like it's stuck somewhere. and yeah.
but it's great. Like right now, like everything roll off the production line, go directly to the delivery
It's
center.
great.
It's wonderful. So I have another question. It's like, from your perspective, how do Chinese public perceive EV?
Well, China is very pro EV, and it's the biggest EV market in the world. I think it's like half of all the EVs are made and bought in China.
Yeah,
Something like
as
that.
of right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So China sort of subsidies for EVs have dropped considerably, so that did cause a reduction.
Helps a lot. Yeah.
Well, the EV incentives were very high in China,
Yeah.
and now they're much less.
Much
They're
less.
like a third of what they used to be, or less.
Yes.
So that's caused some decline in demand, as one would expect. But China is still the biggest market for EVs in the world, so I think they're very positively received.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So talking about the incentives, because I know the price, there was a small price reduction, right, in the Chinese Model 3, but then the subsidies were the balance, so it's actually not. It's not any impact on Tesla in the profit, right?
No, I don't think so. Well, I think obviously depending on what percentage of the car is made in China, the parts that are made in China are not subject to a tariff, so that's certainly helpful. We also save on logistics, and generally we found that locally sourced parts in China cost less than in the US or Europe. So this is all pretty helpful. Also, the Tesla got added to the purchase tax exemption, which all the other. This is. I'm not sure if people realize just how much of an uphill battle Tesla has had to sell cars in China. It's been really, we had basically no access to any of the subsidies, and we paid a tariff, and we had to ship the cars over, and every single thing was set against Tesla, and still we made progress and did decently well. So I think that it will be a much better situation with local production, not having to do shipping and tariffs, and being able to have lower cost local sourcing of components. So it make a big difference, I think.
Is that your victory dance when you broke ground in China?
Yeah, so that was great.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a victory.
Huge.
Just in terms of just fundamental economics, it kind of makes sense that making cars on the continent where they are bought will be a lot more efficient than making them in California and shipping them around the world. Yeah.
And you can get paid for the cars before paying your suppliers, which seems to not be the case if you're shipping around the world.
Right.
And that could be a huge like friction on the whole kind of cash flow situation, or it has been.
For sure, it will sure make a big difference on cash flow because it's there's just no way to get the cars, especially to Europe, but even to China, to get them to customers, before we have to pay suppliers. So if you're a rapidly growing company, it's night and day if you get paid by your customers before you have to pay your suppliers, like night and day, because then the faster you grow, the better your cash position is. Mm-hmm. But if it's the other way around, where you have to pay your suppliers before you get paid by customers, then the faster you grow, the faster your cash position drops.
Yes, because you're going to spend more money to make more cars.
So growth actually causes you to auger into the ground in a situation like that. Now at Tesla, we had a mixture of both things, where we had a lot of customers in California, and that's fast for sure. We would get paid by customers faster than we would have to pay suppliers. But then for cars going to Europe and Asia, it's the other way around. So we would have to pay suppliers before we got paid by customers. And now we could offset some of that with the asset-backed line, which was pretty helpful, but only some of it, not all of it. So the fundamental financial health for sure improves dramatically by just having a factory on the continent. Okay, we're not talking next door, but it's just how many oceans. Especially Europe was logistically super hard because we're on the West Coast. If we're on the East Coast, then China would be much harder. But if you're on the West Coast, Europe's much harder because you've got to go through the Panama Canal, or even worse, around Tierra del Fuego. Because sometimes the Panama Canal get backed up, and you're like, this friggin' ship is going to the Antarctic. It's like you just go up to the and it's stormy as hell. So you got to send a ship around Chile? Are you kidding? In the middle of crazy storms, and then back up all the way, and then it is. Oh my god. So logistic nightmare. It'd be great to just have it not get on a boat and cross the Pacific and Atlantic and that kind of thing.
So maybe similar to Vincent's question earlier, what's the biggest advantage in choosing Berlin compared to other European countries?
Berlin has the best nightclubs.
That's true. Have you been?
I went to Bergheim once.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's cool.
Yeah, so for several years ago. Well, no, I don't know. I mean, we looked at a lot of different locations, and I think sort of, I don't know. We could have put it in a lot of locations. We needed to move quickly, and actually this place, it's like whatever 30 minutes to the outskirts of Berlin, technically in Brandenburg. It actually was a location that BMW was going to put a plant there. So a ton of the environmental work and all of the permits and stuff had already been done, and then for some reason BMW chose a different location. But there's like, I guess, something on the order of a year's worth of environmental, paperwork and stuff that's been done on that location for an auto plant.
Awesome.
So that it made it one of the quickest places to get going. And generally, like the government, local and state government was very supportive. So, I went there and it's like, okay, this seems like some pretty good vibes. This place, so there's a lovely part of this lovely place, and there's an opportunity for, like, it's close enough to Berlin that, say, young people could still, live in an apartment in Berlin and commute to the factory. It's right, there's a train station. They're actually going to move the train station. It's a small train station, but they're going to move the train station to where you can literally get off the train and be right at the Giga Berlin.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's
Great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's perfect.
You could literally just pop right off, and you just walk.
Wow.
You don't need a bicycle. So then it's like, okay, this is pretty cool. And so young people could be in Berlin apartment and still, can work at Giga Berlin. But if you want to have more of a family situation, the backyard, there's affordable housing available with houses with yards and stuff that aren't too expensive. So it seems like a good combination of factors. A lot of talent in the area. So it sounds cool to Giga Berlin. It does sound like some cool nightclub, I think. You could definitely have a cool nightclub that was called that. People are like, yeah, that sounds good. Giga Shanghai too. It sounds pretty cool. Pretty
We
fun.
should party in Giga Shanghai.
Yeah, we should have like a rave cave in the. Giga
So enough
Berlin.
space around the factory side.
Yeah,
Well, you should have like your own nightclub.
yeah. I think that'll be who doesn't know.
Who doesn't want
We should do that. I feel like I'd go for sure work at a company that's got the nightclub. That sounds way more fun.
Didn't you want to put a roller coaster into the Fremont factory?
Yeah.
Still gonna do that?
I mean, I think that would be pretty fun to do. Yeah. I think we could just like do, just basically have like, we just needed a rail that can support like a modified Teslas, and then
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Can you imagine a plaid
yeah, just like zip around and
around the factory in like 5 seconds?
Tours would be booked for months.
Yeah, we should get in right now. Awesome.
yeah, we kind of actually in various parts of the factory we have vehicle conveyance systems. They just don't move that fast, but they're kind of like roller coasters that
You
move
could speed
slowly.
them up.
Yeah, you can speed them up. Exactly. So yeah, but yeah, overall I'm feeling pretty. I don't want to tempt fate or anything, but feeling pretty good about where things are headed. I think there's just a lot of good things. Model Y coming out this year, and some exciting announcements about batteries. A lot of progress in autopilot. Yeah. And so Berlin, Giga Berlin, and then making progress on some of the new vehicle developments. And the solar glass roof, getting that rolled out.
The Cybertruck got received really well, I think.
Yeah.
Did you expect that many orders?
Not really.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. when I first saw the Cybertruck in Franz's design studio, I mean, Elon had told me that this was a daring design. Although I think you're the most excited about this design than any design.
Yeah, I think it's our best product ever.
Yeah, and I saw it. I was just taken aback, and not by the design so much, by the pure aggression that the truck. You stand in front of it, and you're like, okay, I'm afraid. It really is like a badass truck.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like a lot of reasons why people buy pickup trucks, in the US is like because it's like the most badass truck, like which one's the toughest truck, and it's like what's tougher than a truck? A tank. Like a tank from the future. So it's like
my niece in Cochrane, which is near Calgary, she's a dirt bike rider champion, and already 5 Cybertrucks were ordered just the day.
5 Cybertrucks.
Because they all want to push
Just in case the first 4 are busy.
Yeah, 5 of her friends ordered.
She's done.
And she's also pushing already.
Yeah, absolutely.
They just love it.
Yeah, it's literally like, so how do you out tough a truck? You just make a futuristic armored personnel carrier, and that's tougher than a truck.
And I feel like autonomy will be very like mature by the time it ships too.
For sure.
So how many Cybertruck orders do we have right here?
Raise your hand.
I got one.
We all have Cybertruck orders.
2.
I ordered 3.
I mean, it's gonna be pretty special and not look like other things. So yeah.
It looks so cool. Like the first time I show it to my son, it's like, Daddy, this is something from Alien. This is his first impression.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, it is.
That's how it was designed. It's like, what's the, let's make a futuristic armored personnel carrier, and so the inspiration board was like literally like Blade Runner, like sort of Mad Max, Back to the Future, Aliens. They've like so that's why it looks like that.
like the pre-order number is amazing.
Well, it's got to be over like 400,000 now, right?
I think way more.
I think it was just so risky, and it just like at first people were like, even people who like were hardcore fans were like, oh, when it first rolled out, and then people are like, you know what?
Wait a minute, like,
this is kind of amazing. I want this.
You could see it like there was like in person. You could see it happening really fast.
It's
like
growing.
The reaction and then the processing, and then you're seeing all the features, and then the range and the price. Those are the compelling things that really like just hit everybody.
The
really,
40,000 was the biggest shocker.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, people are going to be buying
and
this.
that range too.
Yeah.
Like it's just
No,
it
actually,
was
the
beyond.
69,500 miles with 2.9 seconds. Like, come on, like, dude, you have to get it. Like, no way. Yeah. It's
Well, and Sid
amazing.
Mead loved it too, right?
He did actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the last things he said actually.
That's, yeah.
Did he have a drive in it?
And no, he saw pictures of it, but I think he was not. Obviously, he died recently, so he didn't. He saw pictures and he said, "Yeah, that's great." And he said, "Send us a note, like he loves it."
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So, but you want to have these things that inspire people. It feels different, not like everything else is like the same. It's like variations on the same theme. You want to have something different. But you said like how many? I wasn't sure if nobody would buy it or a lot of people would buy it. It just wasn't. I don't know. But I just told team like, listen, if nobody wants to buy this, we can always make one that looks like the other trucks. That's not like
Yeah, you can always just try it and
we could say like, okay, it was a we could say okay, it was a weird failure, but now we'll make one that looks just like the others, and there you go. So.
It seems to have captured the whole world though, like elevated Tesla in the cultural zeitgeist in a way that like is so exciting. Like the Travis Scott music video already happened. Like that was so.
cool.
I was
was
waiting
cool.
for the first music video, and I was
free
like,
advertising. Right
yeah, so
Yeah.
awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to make that, by the way. So it's not, because it's a different architecture. It's an exoskeleton architecture, so there isn't any cars out there that have an exoskeleton architecture. So you got to rethink how all the internals of the car are done, so that you can use the external shell as a load-bearing structure instead of just basically thin sheet metal that is effectively just there for aerodynamic reasons. So you could take the external what's called A-class surfaces off most cars and still drive around with it lose almost no structural value. They usually go very, very thin sheet metal, so it's all endoskeleton. So there'll be some challenges building that.
It's a Starships 3. It's a Starships, yeah.
You can use the same steel as the ship.
Yeah, I'd love one of those limited quantity ones.
Oh, I know.
Sure,
Like
sweet.
Tim had shouted out.
Yeah,
about,
Tim had asked about that. Everyday astronaut.
Yeah,
He's a cool guy.
he is a cool guy. He really knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he does.
So yeah, so there's a lot of a lot of good things. And undoubtedly be some setbacks along the way, but it's looking pretty good.
Should we do some closing thoughts?
You know, I just remember when I got my Model 3, it was like a difficult time in my life, and it made it easier. And, you know, you don't have to buy gas, car drives you around. It just makes your life better. All of our lives in these little ways, like all this struggle you do, it really makes things better and just makes you hopeful and inspired. And, you know, I just can't thank you and the whole Tesla team and enough for all the love you put into the car. You know, and every day it's just happy because I have a Model 3.
That's cool. I'm glad you like it. That's our goal. Our goal is to, you know, maximize make people like really touch people's heart, you know, with the product. And it's like, I think like too many of these companies out there that design these things whether it's sort of a spreadsheet and sort of marketing surveys and that kind of thing, without saying, do you love it? You know,
Yeah, do you
do
love
you
the
actually like the product that you're making? Do you
It
love
touched my heart very much.
Right.
I'd like to thank you for this chance, like doing interview with all of us. And as a shareholder and Model 3 owner, I remember like one time you tweet about your money is first in and will be last out.
Yeah.
I was really touched to see that tweet. I think it's like years ago.
Sure.
Like right after one of the shareholder meeting. I was like which CEO would do this, you know? And like after I bought my Model 3, I more believed to the company. Like I ordered a Model Y and then 2 Cybertruck. I was like, I'm a Porsche fans before, and then right now, like,
He was gonna get a Taycan until he saw the range.
yeah, I was thinking to get a Taycan. Like, why not? Like, give it a try. But
Sure.
when you look at the spec, the range turned me off. Like
Yeah.
And
It's
the price,
obsolete
too.
already.
201. Like, who's gonna buy a
For 150K as well.
just not talk about money, just talk about range itself. The spec, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
So with like 150K plus, like nobody gonna buy it. Yeah. So thank you, Elon. And
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you very much.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks you guys for your support. It really makes a difference. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't own a Tesla, so I hopefully I will.
You ordered a Cybertruck though,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, true.
Yeah.
and you're a shareholder.
but
Are you
it's
still in college?
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, I gotta save up.
Okay.
But I will buy one, and I've got the Cybertruck, like you said.
Yeah.
But like I've made so many great memories just like through these cars. Like I've met all you guys through Tesla, and this is like amazing. Just like what kind of community just is created through products that you love, and I think that really means a lot. Like I think I've never seen people being so excited about a product before. Or like having this whole family feeling. It's really
That's cool.
cool. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say congrats, first of all, because I feel like it's kind of like a feel-good moment for Tesla, all that's happening.
Yeah.
And obviously, thank you, because like you've inspired all of us. And I think there's not many things in the world that like people get pumped about that are positive about the future. Like, I really feel like we need that now. And so Tesla, like bringing us all together has been really awesome and really much needed, I think.
Great. This is really cool.
I think I'd have to agree with what Gally said. Just where Tesla's going, you have a car that's actually making a difference with the clean energy, changing the earth, cleaning things up. I mean, it made me excited to see. And you're so efficient, and you actually get things the way you do it. You just, I don't know, you get it done. and I trust you, and I trust the company, and it's I don't know, it's such a passion. It's amazing. I don't know. I don't get the words out.
We're sometimes a little late, but we get it done in the end.
Yeah.
Always deliver.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for your support.
Well, I just want to say, like, how I described this podcast, like it kind of just grew out grassroots, right? And I look at you as also part of the community. You're as much third row as all of us, right? So I mean, I'm really grateful you were able to come on this and also tell the story.
Absolutely.
Show more people. I hope we can do it again too, because I'm sure there's going to be
Sure.
things that come up that we want to set the record straight to.
Yeah.
And maybe have some celebrations too. So
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, I mean,
Thank
there's
you.
a lot of exciting things. Probably, like I said, probably some disasters and drama along the way. It's never 100% good.
We'll
but,
be there to help. So
I mean, it's always good to get feedback. Like if you're in my position, what would you do?
Right.
Like a lot of times, like I just don't know if something's wrong. I just don't even know it's wrong.
Definitely.
Because I have to learn it somehow, and then allocate, try to figure out, okay, how do we deal with all these different issues? Scaling service effectively is very difficult, for example, and so that's like it's like a mundane thing, but it's very important.
Definitely. Yeah, I think the mobile service is incredible. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on my 5th Tesla now.
Yeah.
Not the last, because I just keep upgrading them.
Yeah.
So the last one, I have a P100D Model S, which is outside right there, and I have I got the license plate Get Tesla.
Yeah.
I thought, if you want it, I would love to give it to you. So yeah, thank you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Cool.
Elon, can you sign my Model 3?
Sure.
Oh yeah, and my Model S too.
All right. Cool.
Okay, thank you.